such a strain on our nervous system. Mitochondrial issues, chronic inflammation, teetering on that stage of burnout, just inability to cope with stress, premature aging. And then I think the last thing that really contributes to burnout in the modern world is hello guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another video. As always, I am so excited to have you guys here. And if you're new here, hello, welcome. My name's Claire. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and my goal for this channel is to really have you guys feel as empowered and educated when it comes to your health as possible. So if that is something you're interested in, definitely click the subscribe button. I would also highly recommend checking out my email list. I send out weekly emails on different health topics. I would also say check out my Instagram. I post a lot on there, especially about metabolic health, stress reduction, nervous system control, and digestive health. I also want to say I'm giving a free webinar on Wednesday, March 27th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be diving into the basics of health. So diet, exercise, stress, sleep, and environmental exposure. Going to be about an hour. So yeah, if you guys are interested in that, you can check out the link in the description box below. And if you can't make it live, don't worry. I will be sending out a recording in the days following the webinar. With that being said, let's just jump into the video. I want to do something a little bit different this week and do a sit down video. You guys know I love making the cooking content, but I always say there is so much more to your health than just the food that you eat. You guys can probably tell by the title of the video what we are chatting about today. I wanted to do a video on this for a while, and that is this idea of decreased resiliency, decreased ability to cope with stress, and then the end results being burnout. So I wanted to talk about it, what it is, why we're seeing it more, and some strategies that you guys can implement into your life to help prevent burnout, to help improve your resiliency, to improve your ability to cope and manage stress throughout your day. Let's start out by talking about what burnout actually is. I think that a lot of times people think that they're in burnout when really they're just in the space leading up to burnout. They're in this burnout phase where they're having a lot of those symptoms. Symptoms like not feeling like yourself, a lot of digestive issues, whether that be constipation, loose stools, diarrhea, gas, bloating, just inability to cope with stress, feeling like everything in your day will set you off, or just feeling overwhelmed. A lot of the time we'll also see weight changes. A lot of times it's weight gain, some skin changes, acne, hives, rosacea, premature aging, things like that. Hair changes, so hair loss or hair thinning, low libido, or menstrual issues. Now we can actually talk about what burnout actually is, and there's two definitions that I really like to use when talking about burnout. So the first one is burnout occurs when three factors are present at the same time: emotional exhaustion, depersonalization or cynicism, and a diminished sense of personal accomplishment. I really like this definition because it gives us a really clear idea of what burnout is, and it goes beyond that idea of just fatigue or decreased ability to cope with life. It also talks about that depersonalization and cynicism, and it also talks a little bit about that decreased sense of accomplishment, which is something I see a lot of women struggle with when they are either teetering on that stage of burnout or they are completely in burnout. I see a lot of imposter syndrome and just downplaying of our accomplishments, or constantly feeling like we're not getting enough done. Now, the second definition that I use a lot is a series of psychological challenges or vulnerabilities that, when are combined with a significant mental emotional stress, results in digestive issues and decreased resilience. I like this definition because it talks about how burnout isn't just one thing that happens. It's really those constant hits and repeated hits that just slowly wear down our system. It also takes into account that it's both psychological and physiological, and that kind of leads me to my next point, and that is it's also important to rule other causes of fatigue out before we jump to the conclusion of burnout. So it's really important that we're ruling things out like anemia, thyroid function, other nutrient deficiencies, mitochondrial issues, chronic inflammation, sleep issues, or insomnia. Now, I'm not saying that it's a either or. You can definitely have those things along with burnout. In fact, having anemia or hypothyroidism or insomnia is going to make it more likely that you are going to have burnout because those things decrease your body's resiliency. Another really big thing to rule out is blood sugar issues. I see this so commonly, and I always come back to blood sugar control with my patients because it profoundly impacts so many systems in the body. If you do not have good blood sugar control, it is much more likely that you are going to experience depression, anxiety, burnout, fatigue, all of those things, especially if you are having a lot of hypoglycemic episodes. Now, I wanted to chat a little bit about why we see burnout so much more often in the modern world. I really do think that when we understand why something is happening, it makes it easier for us to make changes in our lifestyle to prevent it, right? If we know what factors are working against us, we can come up with strategic approaches to counteract those. I could go on for days on what causes burnout in the modern world, but it really comes down to the idea of evolutionary mismatch. And this is something I talk about all the time. I could talk about for days. The idea of evolutionary mismatch is that humans are currently living at a mismatch with our environment. If you look at the modern world, it is just not conducive to our health, especially if you are living in a large city like I am. There's a lot of factors that are working against us. Some of the ones that really spring to mind are things like our food system. We are eating more ultra-processed and highly processed foods as opposed to whole foods. We also see that the farming practices have changed so much in the past really 60 to 70 years. We're seeing degradation and nutrient depletion of soil and a lot of monocropping that is just changing the food system. Next is exercise and movement. Humans have really manufactured movement out of our day. When you just look at the way that our system is set up, we use cars, escalators, elevators. Really, a lot of urban cities are not even that well set up for walking. So we've manufactured a lot of exercise out of our day, and I find this really interesting that we basically manufactured exercise out of our day and then we built gyms to work out in. And I love going to the gym. I love working out, but it's just interesting that we basically took exercise out of our life and then we had to artificially insert it back in. And it's really interesting because we know that small bits of movement throughout the day are actually really important for health. And instead, what most people do is they'll go to the gym in the morning and then have a sedentary desk job. We'll get to this when we talk about strategies that we can implement in our life, but definitely a sedentary lifestyle, something that greatly contributes to burnout and decreased resiliency and decreased overall health. The next one is our changes in connection. I think that when you look at modern society, there is less of that community, especially the intergenerational community. A lot of people nowadays have life coaches, especially in their 20s and 30s. And when we look back at other cultures and societies, we see that young women or young men often went to their elders for advice. And that is something that we see less and less of nowadays. And I think there's two reasons for that. One, we have just moved further away from that communal living and sense of community that we used to have. And then the other thing is older generations just grew up and experienced their 20s and their 30s in a very different world than we did. And I think that sometimes the young generations have a harder time connecting with older generations and really receiving that guidance. The next evolutionary mismatch is just the amount of information that we have access to. Our nervous system was not designed to have access to the amount of information that we do and the constant stimulation. Social media, the news, TV, media, all of those things. It is just such a strain on our nervous system. So that is something that can greatly impact burnout and the stress response. And that leads me to the next point, and that is the lack mindset. This is something that I think greatly contributes to burnout because it feeds the idea that we constantly need to be doing more. Really, this idea that we never have enough or that the next thing will make us happy. Social media and marketing does a really good job at feeding us the lack mindset. We are constantly told that the next thing will make us happy or that there's something else that we need rather than going inwards and being grateful for what we have. And I also appreciate that it's not just as simple as writing down things that you're grateful for. I think we've all been told just journal about the things that you're grateful for every morning and that will make your life better. Yes, that can help, but it's important to also recognize that there's a lot of factors that are working against us, and just opening up your awareness, noticing when you are being fed the lack mindset can really help you better identify it in your life and help to counteract that. And then I think the last thing that really contributes to burnout as well in the modern world is that so many of us are living out of alignment. This doesn't just mean in work, although that's one that I see really commonly, but even in your life. If you are are making decisions or doing things that are out of alignment for you because you're looking for external validation, or you feel societal pressure or familial pressure, constantly living out of alignment is going to cause fatigue. It just does. It wears down your spirit and your tenacity. Those are just the ways that I really find the modern world works against us when it comes to our nervous system, when it comes to our adrenal response, and when it comes to burnout. Now, let's chat about a few ways that we can help to counteract these and really help to support ourselves to prevent burnout. So the first one is going to be diet, and I always say this, a healthy diet is really the foundations of health. Eating a diet rich in fiber, rich carbohydrate, protein, healthy fats, lots of colors, lots of polyphenols, and if you guys ever need meal ideas, there are tons of videos for you guys to check out. The next is exercise, and I really separate exercise into two categories. There is working out, and then there is daily movement. So working out could look like weights, Pilates, yoga, cardio, whatever workouts you enjoy. That is the most important part of it, that it is a workout that you enjoy and that you can stick to. I like doing yoga and weightlifting. That is what works for me. I also like that weightlifting helps me to put on muscle, and we know that muscle has a lot of metabolic benefits, but really any sort of exercise that you enjoy is going to be great. And then the next is daily movement, and this is one where I think a lot of people can improve on, and that is just getting movement throughout your day. Getting out for daily walks, having little stretching sessions. It's going to be great for your mental health, really good for your lymphatic system, and really, really critical for overall health. I also find that when people have little exercise breaks, it also gives us mental breaks. A lot of us, especially if we are on a computer or on screens or doing work all day, it can be very draining. So giving yourself those little breaks, especially movement breaks, is going to be so important. So the next one is sleep and getting 8 hours. And of course, making sure you're covering the basics with sleep hygiene, things like avoiding screens before you go to bed, going to bed and waking up at the same time every day to the best of your ability, getting bright light exposure in the early morning, doing things to relax and unwind in the evenings. Those are all really going to help promote deep and restful sleep. And on top of this, if you are finding that you're still having issues with sleep, then I would definitely be working one-on-one with a practitioner to see where you can improve your sleep and what is causing the sleep issues. Now, the next one is stress reduction. I'm not a big fan of just saying reduce your stress. I don't think that that works. When I talk stress reduction, I'm talking mindset changes, implementing different stress reduction strategies. When I talk about mindset work when it comes to stress, I'm really talking about your relationship to stress, especially if you find yourself constantly putting yourself in situations that cause you stress, looking and seeing if maybe that's a coping mechanism. Our bodies are wired to look for familiarity. If stress and being stressed out and worrying is what your body and your nervous system is used to, you're constantly going to be putting yourself in situations that stress you out. And then the other one is those practical stress management techniques, because we can't just remove all the stressors from our life. We can try and remove the unnecessary stressors, but really our goal is to improve our resiliency and our coping mechanisms so that we can better cope with stress. So things like breath work, movement, check-ins throughout the day can be incredibly important and incredibly beneficial for stress reduction. If I was just starting out with stress reduction, I would recommend that you start in the mornings. That is when your nervous system and your subconscious is really best primed. I find that even just 5 or 10 minutes of mindfulness in the morning can vastly impact your day and impact your nervous system response throughout the day. Now, the next one is social connection and really prioritizing social connection. I know that this one can be difficult, especially if you are starting to feel burnt out or you're teetering towards that pre-burnout state. A lot of the times we actually want to isolate. I know when I was really struggling with my mental health and just feeling constantly overwhelmed, I didn't want to open up to anyone. One, I didn't want to be perceived as weak. I didn't want to let anyone know that I wasn't doing okay. But in fact, opening up to other people was so helpful. And of course, making sure that you are choosing people that you really deeply trust. Working on building that social connection and that social support system is really, really important. We also know that actually helping others out increases our resiliency and improves mood and improves that overall sense of well-being. So not only leaning on others for support, but actually supporting others are two really important strategies in the prevention of burnout. I know that that was a lot to get through in the video. I really just wanted to have this as a general overview, something for you guys to refer to if you are feeling like sometimes you just don't have as much resiliency as you want. If you're feeling that sense of overwhelm, if you're feeling that sense of fatigue, let me know in the comments down below if you guys found this helpful. If you did, let me know some of your favorite tips from the video or things that you guys do on a daily basis to help improve your resiliency or your ability to cope with stress. With that being said, I hope that you guys enjoy the video. As always, I am here to support you on your health journey, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!